So all of those things, Allah understand. You have to be careful when you start passing out ahkam. What do you guys think about smoking?
Harmful.
Harmful, there's no doubt. Haram? Is there a spiritual punishment for it? No? Okay.
It depends how you look at it.
Sure. This is a very good point. So it depends on how you view it, right? So how you look at it.
Nicotine, that one nicotine, one cigarette is about 1 gram of nicotine.
Yeah.
You inject it directly, it kills you right there and then.
Sure.
But you're inhaling it, so technically you're killing yourself
Sure.
as you go along.
So
it depends how you look at it again.
No, absolutely. So the thing is, like, is there an immediate effect? Do people live? Are there people who don't have those side effects that are claimed? They don't smoke all the time, and they live 100 years. So but the question isn't, is it harmful or not?
It's harmful.
Right, it's harmful. What are other things that we consume in our daily lives that are harmful? Sugar, right? Sugar is very harmful. Cheeseburger, depends on the cheeseburger, right? Huh? Water? The fluoride? Is it the fluoride in the water, Ed? Oh man, should I put my tin hat on? Right, the fluoride hardens the hippocampus, right? No, exam. So.
Depending on how much you drink.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I didn't mean to turn it into a fiqh discussion, but it's something that I really want to mention, that it is important and is related to Tazkīyah. It's knowing our place, right? Knowing our place in making sure that just because I believe something, does this now allow me to impose my belief on others? And the thing with smoking is something that is a relatively, not harmful, but it's a relatively new phenomenon. It's not something that was around during the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In saying that, are there scholars who say that is makruh? Yes, there are, and there are a number of scholars that say it is haram. But to cast blanket statements as if, making it equivalent to lying or stealing or drinking alcohol or eating pork, this becomes extremely problematic. And we have to be very careful with our words when we use them. Saying that, do I encourage anyone to smoke? No. I'm sorry. Oh, what?
Right?
No.
Not weed, right?
Yes. So, yeah, like I said, we should always be careful of what we say and who we say it to. It's really important. So here, we have a very long hadith from Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. I'll give you guys a minute to read it, and then I want you to mention to me 3 benefits that you took away from the hadith, and then I want to talk about it. The benefit of halal income. That's a major benefit. What else? And conversely, the harms of haram income. Yes.
Having a righteous rich, and he'll spend that money.
That even rich people can be. That rich people can be what? Well, not. Well,
No, the opposite.
Can rich people be righteous or no, based on this hadith?
Rarely.
No.
I didn't ask how many.
Yeah.
I said can.
Yes.
Yes, right. Absolutely, they can.
Name one.
Huh? Righteous rich people? Allahu Akbar.
Someone who's alive.
Allahu Akbar.
Yes.
What? You see, you start putting more conditions, man.
Well, this is the last one.
No, he died last month. Khalas. Yeah, and of course, there are righteous rich people. Why not? I don't think that's a problem.
So he expected, based on the first line, he expected his Muslims to have world blessings in the future.
Yep. And it's a sign that the Prophet ﷺ, he knew what? That in the days to come, that the Muslims will be what? They'll be wealthy, right? They'll be wealthy for sure.
But he was afraid of the temptation. Too much temptation.
So who are you going to fear temptation for? The people?
For my people.
For the people who have what? Access to it, right? If I don't have access to something, then it's not temptation because it's not there. But in order for me to be tempted by something, it means that it has to be within reach. Is wealth in itself, so based on this hadith, how would you guys define wealth? Would you define it as something that's good or bad? Or benign?
It's like a gun. Can be used for good.
Right? It's benign. Like only a good guy with a gun can stop. So anyway, so it's something that's benign, meaning that if this wealth exists, it can be used for good or bad. And that's up to, is it up to the wealth? No. Right? It's up to the individual. It's up to the individual. Yes? Sure. Okay. Okay. So you're in how it's gained. Okay. Yeah, I think that's reasonable too. Like, so we can say that the wealth is charged. Right. So if it's gained in a good way, then the chances of it being used in a good way are what? Are higher. Do you have drug dealers who still donate? Yeah, you do, right? And this is how many times they win over the communities, right? They'll fight, well, this guy, he donated, or he was generous, etc. But or whatever the reasons are, you know what I mean, or for write-offs, tax write-offs. So there are a number of things that it's important to understand that, yeah, wealth, I think it can be charged for sure. But if it's in a good way, it's most likely going to be used in a good way. Versus it being gained in a bad way. The Prophet ﷺ, what is he implying here? That a person who gains wealth in an illegal way, in a haram way, what is he going to do? He's going to keep chasing it, right? He's going to keep trying to acquire more in that same way, in those same means. Why did he ﷺ mention these three groups of people? The orphans, the poor, and the travelers. Okay, so their dua, why would their dua be accepted? How come, like, people with two parents don't get a preference?
There's actually
Because they're vulnerable, right? So these are all susceptible populations, right? You know, it's very easy to take advantage of these people. Why? Because there's no one there to support them, right? So if you're the problem with, or this orphan, or this individual, or this child, what is the problem? What's the issue? Why do we single out orphans?
He doesn't have like support or to back or any
He
protection.
has no one to protect him, right? This is the issue with like when we talk about orphans versus a child who comes from a two-family home. If he has both sets of parents, then how's his experience going to be different from a child who has none? Right? You actually have people who can stand up for your rights. We say, and you know, we talk about the most vulnerable population are children, because many times they won't know how to express, or when to express, or who to express to. Now, if you add a layer on top of that, there's nobody who's looking out for their interests. What's going to happen? It's very easy to take advantage. Even when the Prophet ﷺ, when he talks about marrying, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he talks about marrying orphans, what does he say? He says, if you don't feel you'll be just, then what? Then don't. Like, even if you don't feel you'll be just, then don't marry the orphan. Why? Because if a man marries an orphan girl, what is the problem in this scenario, in this issue? She has no one else to turn to. Right? So, but a woman who has both parents, if she has problems or issues, what can she do? At the least, she can go back to her family. Right? She can go back to her family and seek support from them. Who is this orphan girl going to seek support from? From her husband, right? Ideally, she should seek it from her husband. So the husband, he needs to know himself, right? Am I the type, when I'm put in a position of authority, do I abuse it or take advantage of it? And even in the Quran, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he talks about the husband and the wife, who do we find him addressing more? Who does Allah address more? The husband. Why? Because he's a position of authority, and when a person is given authority, it's very easy to what? To take advantage. And even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he names an entire surah, Surah An-Nisa. Why? And in Surah An-Nisa, who does he talk about? He talks about the downtrodden, he talks about the poor, he talks about orphans. What is that supposed to be representative of? Right, protected populations. That these populations deserve to be protected. And if you have protected populations, the people who are entrusted to protect them, they have an extra layer of responsibility over them. The Prophet ﷺ had a she-camel called Al-Abda, which would not be excelled in a race. Meaning that nobody could beat, like no other camel could beat this race. No other camel could beat this camel in a race. And then one day, a Bedouin came riding his camel and he beat Al-Abda. And the Muslims, when they saw this, how did they feel? So if, huh? So here, let me create the scenario. The Prophet ﷺ, he had this camel, and anybody who raced this camel, that camel the camel would lose against the camel of the Prophet ﷺ. All of a sudden, this Bedouin shows up. He brings his camel. He's like, all right, let's race, and he wins. The Bedouin wins. Well, did the Prophet ﷺ let him win? I don't know.
What else could you do?
Or what? No, I mean, unless he ﷺ said that this is Allah's camel, and he will not allow his camel to be like, for example, Khalid, the Prophet ﷺ, he said he's a sword from Allah's swords. And what happened? Like at the end of his life, how did he die? He died on his bed. He died a natural death. He said, "I'm dying the death of a camel." Right? Meaning I'm just dying in like a camel's den, like how it dies by itself after all these wars. And they said that when we were wrapping Khalid, that when we lifted up his garment to wrap him, we did not see a spot on his body except that there was some scar. So why is it that he died a natural death and not in battle? And many scholars say because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made him his sword, and who can break his sword? Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can break his own sword. Did the same thing happen here with this camel? No. Right? The Prophet ﷺ didn't appoint this camel saying this is Hadi Naqatullah, right? like for Shu'aib. He said this is just a camel that the Prophet ﷺ happened to own and he happened to ride. Now is it blessed because he saw someone used to ride it and he used to touch it? Absolutely. But does that necessitate that it be the fastest camel on earth? No, it's not necessary. But in here, he made this a lesson. And he turned it into the lessons for the Muslims. And what lesson was that? That anything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises in this world, He can also what? He can also drop. And this should be a lesson for us. That our lives are always between giving and taking. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives, what should we do? Huh? We should what? We should give. We should be generous. Like when Allah is being generous with us, we should be generous with others. But I should also what? If I know that, okay, this is the giving time, that means that what? There's going to come a time where I'm not going to get the same. So what should I do? I should be thankful during both those times, right? During one time I'm going to be patient, and the other time I'm going to be thankful. That thankfulness can be expressed in giving. It can also be expressed in saving. Why?
So you mean investing?
No.
It could be investing. No, invest. I mean, yeah, because that's because you know me. Like I'm not big on saving. I'm more on investing. But so, and the thing is, why would I save my money when I'm being blessed? Because you know that hard times are coming, right? If there's a time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you, then it is upon me to prepare for those times when it will get difficult. And not just that, if I'm going through a hard time, what can I hope for? I can be patient. Why? What am I being patient for? That good times are coming. That good times are coming. Inshallah. Isa alayhi salam, he said, who is it that builds a house on top of a wave? He said, such is this world, do not take it as an everlasting abode. And it was asked of him, teach us one action that will cause Allah to love us. He said, hate this world and Allah will love you. What's interesting about some of these things is like the perception that many of these narrators, or even he sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is trying to create for us in how we deal with this world. And we find that the more we try to distance ourselves from it, and the more we try to hate it, the more it what? Right? The more it backfires. Almost done. Right, it tries to pull us back in. Right, so we think that we sidestepped it in one way, and then it tries to pull us in from this way. And it's very difficult. It's not easy. It's very challenging. But the trick is to keep trying. Keep trying. We're not going to be successful because we live in this world, so ultimately we have to what? We have to partake in it. Like we have no choice. And even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says it very clearly to us. He says, "La tansa nasibak min ad-dunya." Don't forget your share of this world. What is my share of this world?
Doing good, building good.
Right, doing good, building good. Not just that, the people who I am, responsible for. If I want to stay away from worldly things, if I don't indulge myself, can I impose those same rules on my wife and my children? No.
A lot of people live in the back. They think living
Huh.
absolutely for men is over.
I don't know about that. I don't have the statistics behind that. But some people, maybe, right? I don't think everyone did. But saying that, like because like we had mentioned before that zuhud, or the idea of abstinence, or this idea of staying away from worldly things, this is a state of the heart, not a physical state, right? I can still own nice things and be a zahid. But my personal standards, is it okay for me to impose that on others? No, right? If I've become accustomed to eating very plain food, can I force my family to eat very plain food? It probably won't go over too well. And it's important to be able to understand and cater to that. And how can I adjust to some of those things? Is it okay for me to make sure that we have plain food once in a while in the home? Yes, it is. And not only is it okay, it's what?
It's good.
It's encouraged. Why? Right, to make sure that our hearts don't get attached. And when it comes time to eat that flavorful food again, what happens? Right, it hits different. Right, it hits different. Why? Because you've gone from such a low standard now to a high standard again. So developing that sense of appreciation is something that's very important. It's very important. And not just that, if I deal like this with the dunya, even the people who are indulged and indulge themselves in the dunya, what is my attitude going to be toward them? So if I'm friends with people who are extremely wealthy or extremely extravagant, or I know such people, how am I going to deal with them? Am I going to, if I don't have a love for the dunya, how am I going to deal with them? I'll deal with them normally, right? All of that glitter and glamour, it's not going to what? It's not going to affect my heart. Why? Because I don't have an attachment to those things that these people are flaunting. So they can have whatever they want. They can have their houses and their yachts. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants us all, ameen. But saying that, like, we don't have to be impressed with those things. And if we're not impressed with those things, we can actually deal with people accordingly. One of the reasons the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was so loved, was because people knew he had no worldly need from them. Even when he sallallahu alaihi wasallam borrowed money, did he ever borrow it from the Muslims? No. Why? There's a couple of reasons. Number one, if he borrowed money from like Uthman or Abu Bakr, and he asked for it back, would they ever give it to him? No. Like they would never, even if he offered it back to them, they would what? They would refuse. So he did it as a mercy toward them, because he knew that they wouldn't give it back. What is the second reason? All right. Yeah. So I think that's kind of a little like close to the first point that I was making. Yeah.
A little bit different.
That's right.
The first one, like they won't feel they do it out of love, but any Muslim in general, like if the Prophet asks something because of his authority.
Yeah.
Even if you're in a position of, like if you're a teacher.
Yep. Listen, no, I'm saying like, if the Prophet ﷺ asked for you for money, and even if I didn't have it, what would I do? I would find a way to get it to him. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and also, I mean, it's just like in fiqh, we study like the position of authority, so like the qadi, the judge, or the teacher, or something like that.
Yeah.
They shouldn't accept. In general,
Oh, they shouldn't accept gifts. Yeah.
Or they shouldn't like ask because the student.
Oh, because they might feel obligated to, like. So if I give you a gift, I'm doing it to gain social capital next time I need something from you.
I'm using my position of authority to like make you feel.
Yeah. Okay. I say, okay. In order to, so that he would not be swayed by any rulings or commandments that might come concerning individuals.
That's for the layman.
Layman, yeah. I mean, for the Prophet, he was above that. So
So like other people, Allah, like, so there won't be ihraj for any Muslim. Like,
okay. Or have expectations, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes if we give something to someone, we might do it with an ill intent. Not to say, but you can't ascribe that to the companions either. So it's kind of tough. Okay.
So you're asking.
So I'm asking why. Why would he go to the Jews and not to the Muslims?
Oh, so is it
Maybe, right? And also to show that it's what?
permissible?
It's permissible, right? Because the Jews, what was their main source of income? How did they make money? Riba, right? They would take back more money than they borrowed, and he sallallahu alaihi wasallam still did business with them. Also, another reason, he sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he didn't want the companions to feel like he had any worldly need from them, right? He was only there for what? For their guidance. That's it. Like, I have no worldly need from you. I'm just here for your spiritual guidance. That's it. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when he dealt with them like that, and even with our friends, like if I have a friend that never asks me for money, if I have a friend that every time we go out together, like money is not an issue, it's not even something that comes up, how much better is that relationship versus guys like, yo, can you spot me this time? And all of us have friends like that, right? It's like, yo, yeah, my check didn't come through yet, I'm still waiting, and his check just never comes through. You know what I mean? It's like, and again, we've had that friend before. Do I want to spend time with that friend? No, right? Like, so when I see him or her, what am I going to try to do? Right? So I'm going to be like, yep, right? I'm going to try to avoid that person. Because finances do have an effect on people, even if I'm wealthy, right? So even if I'm wealthy, but I constantly have somebody who I feel like is, because why? I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. And he sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he didn't even want to give that inclination or intonation to anyone. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the more we run away from the dunya, the less impressed we will be by people of the dunya, and it will have a less of an effect on our heart, and we won't feel the need for it. And many times, like especially when we're younger, keeping up with the Jones, like like Jones is like it's difficult. Like you want to dress like everybody's dressing, you want to wear what everybody has, you want the accessories that other people have, because we don't want to feel left out. And that social stigma is something that is very problematic for us. Like we're very social creatures as humans, and we want to feel like we're part of something. And the moment that we fear that we're being removed from a group or from friends or something like that, we become very scared, and we do whatever we can to kind of hold on to those groups. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's given us the religion for a reason. Like we shouldn't have that need. The thing that we should truly strive for is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And our friendships will be built off and around that love, not for other things or just to get people to agree with me. Abu Darda, he said that the Prophet ﷺ delivered a sermon the like of which I had never heard before. He said, if you but knew what I knew, then you would have laughed little and wept much. On hearing that, the companions of the Prophet ﷺ covered their faces, and the sound of their weeping was heard. A man said, who is my father? The Prophet ﷺ said, so and so. So this verse was revealed, لا تسألوا عن أشياء إن تبد لكم تسؤكم. That do not ask about matters which, if had been made known to you, might make things difficult for you.
Don't use so-and-so.
I'm sorry?
Don't use so-and-so.
What would you?
Part of the fatwa.
Don't use so-and-so?
Yeah. Part of the fatwa is smoking.
I don't, whatever, man. But here, what is the lesson that He sallallahu alaihi wasallam is giving us? Number one, if He's asked something, He will what? If He sallallahu alaihi wasallam is asked something, what is He going to do? He's going to answer. Why? Because He is responsible, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If He is asked something, He's going to answer with amana, with the responsibility, full responsibility. And we should be careful in what? Right? Don't ask questions you don't want the answers to. Don't ask if smoking is haram, right? So here, Isa alayhi salam, he said, apostles, ya hawariyin, that be pleased with the least of this world as long as your religion is intact. Similar to how the people of this world are pleased with the smallest amount of religion as long as their world is intact. There's a piece of poetry that's attributed to Abdullah ibn Mubarak. He said, you see a man with the smallest amount of religion pleased, but upset when they are without bread. So give up this world for religion, as kings have given up their religion for this world. Isa alayhi salam, he said, the one who seeks this world to obey him Leaving it off is more obedient for you. If you guys have any questions on this, feel free to stop me. Or if there's one that you guys want to discuss more. Yes?
So going back to the asking questions, it's, isn't it logic, so this is probably when people are first learning the deen,
Yeah.
you want to know what is right, what is wrong.
Sure.
How do you kind of like mitigate like asking too much?
Yeah. For sure. So, I mean, it's a very personal scale at that point. But if I'm at a point where I'm comfortable saying I'm ready to follow whatever comes out of this, go for it. Ask. You shouldn't be like questioning is not a problem in and of itself. Somebody.
I was gonna say, that applies to the time of revelation.
Yeah.
If revelation is completed, then
Ah.
it's why you ask a question for something you don't know.
Sure.
And the deen especially obviously open
Yeah.
your life in general. But when it comes to like asking questions to like show off your knowledge or trick people or get fatwas that are like, you know, to deviate, then that's when it comes to like acting like the children you were used to like.
So it's not asking. So the thing is, if you look at like why Bani Israel, why did they ask? Many times it was just to delay commandments, right? Like they were trying to get out of it. So asking to get out of something, yeah, obviously that's going to be haram. That's going to be problematic. And even this, like I think there is an application for people who are new and coming into the religion stepwise. Certain things can be very problematic for people, depending on the situations that they're in, on how to deal with family members. Sometimes if one of the spouses becomes Muslim, how they're supposed to deal with their spouse. Like in such things, it might be better depending on the question and depending on the situation, not to not ask, but to delay the question. Because even he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he sent Mu'adh to Yemen, he didn't tell him to start with like far'i issues, with branch issues. He told them to start with the basic ones. Tell them to worship Allah, tell them to pray, tell them to fast. So when it comes to fundamentals of the religion, yeah, it's an obligation to know all of those things. But for some people, that when they jump in too deep, it ends up being overwhelming for them. But the best thing to do, man, very honestly, and I advise this even for ourselves today, just two things, man. Connect yourself with the community, because at least that way, whatever answer is coming out, or whatever it is that I find out, I can find support. And that's something that's hugely important. And the second thing is like connecting ourselves with local scholars, right? So in that way, if I do have a question, that scholar, he might not have the answer, but he can get me to someone who has that answer. So these two things I think are hugely important, especially with new Muslims, right? So with new Muslims, man, they need support more so than many people who were raised Muslim, because they have unique challenges that many of us don't face or deal with. Yeah.
So when you delay the answer, won't that increase their curiosity?
I haven't been in that situation, so I can't really say. I had a Muslim family, so whatever answers that I got, like, yeah, it was difficult, but being like, like you have a Muslim family that's around you, and they might not agree with particular implementation of things, but they're still Muslim, and as being raised Muslim, you know how to navigate communities many times better than someone who's new, to the religion. Yeah, I mean, and it's not even necessary. So people who come to Islam, it's not necessary that they were practicing whatever religion it was before. It might even be for the first time for them to even practice a religion. You know what I mean? And Allah knows best. Like everybody's individual situation is unique and different. But in summary, ask questions. Right? If I need to know the answer to something, ask. I'm supposed to ask. Yes.
So like the people following ayah, the people that ask questions, they were the people before them,
Mm-hmm.
they fell into disbelief.
Yeah.
So is the wisdom here like don't ask questions because of the fear of falling into disbelief?
No, that's not what it is. So over here, he sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was, like we said, he's obligated to answer. Every time he's asked something, he's obligated to answer that question. Yes? Yeah. One of the questions that he received, for example, is a man came to him and he sallallahu alaihi wasallam was talking about Hajj, and he says, do we have to make Hajj every year? And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, same thing. He said, don't ask about things that would be a difficulty. He said, had I said yes, he said, you wouldn't have been able to do it every year.
So how do you, I guess, make sense of like the following ayah?
Yeah.
In terms of like the people before they fell into disbelief, they were disbelievers as
Yeah, I'd have to see a specific case instance for that. But why did those Jews, they're questioning why was it problematic? Not just out of arrogance. Again, the idea was that they wanted to delay fulfilling the command.
Loopholes.
Right? Or looking for loopholes. Like the loopholes are things that they created. But anytime they would ask questions, they're like, oh, what color is it? Where is it? How is it? How big is it? Because when it was time to slaughter the baqar, what was the purpose of them asking those questions? They were just not trying to do it. They were trying to, but in the end, what happened? They ended up actually making it more difficult for themselves. So, just delaying orders is the same thing, and there's a huge parallel between this and sometimes when our parents ask us to do things, right? We'll be like, oh, well, okay, where do you want us to throw it away? Or, right? Well, how do you want me to clean your room? Why am I asking? Huh?
To kick the can down.
Right, exactly. I'm just trying to delay fulfilling the command. It's not because do I not know how to clean my room? Really? You know what I mean? Or do I not know how to throw out the garbage? These are all things that we know. The reason we ask those questions is because we're trying to delay fulfilling those particular commands. And it's the same thing, with the story of the Jews that I mentioned in the Quran. Isa alayhi salam, he said, apostles, be pleased with the least of this world as long as your religion is intact. Similar to how the people of this world are pleased with the smallest amount of religion as long as their world is intact. Allah revealed to Musa, do not rely on love of this world, for you will not come to me with a greater sin than it. Musa passed by a man who was crying, and on his way back he still found him crying. Musa said, O Lord, your slave weeps out of fear of you. He said, now this is the person who was crying, son of Imran, had his mind shed as his tears, or this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala response to Musa. He said, Ya Ibn Imran, O son of Imran, had his mind shed as his tears do, and had he raised his hands until they fell off his body, he would not be forgiven due to his love of this world. And we had said before, love of this world is what? Is it something that I can completely remove? No. It is something that is? It's part of us, right? It's something that is natural. So what is the purpose of such narrations? Huh? Right, there's a balance. Remember, and this is something that we had started from the beginning and from the first book that Ghazāli had talked about. He had talked about what? Resetting the scale. And in order to reset a skewed scale, what do I need to do? I need to pull it on a board. Right, you have shares, right? You have shares, or your owner, or you have maybe you're one of the founders of the institution. Whatever the reason is, does it make sense for me, who are one of the people who's getting returns from this company, to try to give as much possible to an employee?
Usually not really.
Not really. Is that a good business plan? No.
Employee.
Huh?
Which employee?
The CEO.
The bottom one or the highest?
No, but I'm saying there's a market rate.
No, it's not a good idea.
No, I'm just saying as a general business practice, is it a good idea to try to pay as much money as possible?
Usually as little as possible.
It depends on what the return is.
Yes, and I agree with you. So if there's a market rate, but I'm saying at the end of the day, as somebody who owns a business, my idea is to minimize costs, right? I want to minimize costs. So if the CEO, going salary is $300,000, I'm going to try to hover around that mark. Am I going to give 500? No. $1 million?
But
7 million?
But if the CEO is going to
500.
double the size of my company, I may give him 10x. Right?
It's not a guarantee.
So unless he's done that in other companies, I don't know.
But that's why CEO salaries are high.
No, qualifications. The thing is, why do we hire people? Do I walk into a room and I'll be like, you, CEO? How does it? No, how does it work?
Look, how it works is
Qualifications for CEOs is based on their what?
Experience.
On their track record and their experience, for sure. And I have whatever the market is demanding for something. That's how much the market is going to demand. Yeah. So I have no problem with people making money. And I don't think that we should. If we as a community, if I as an individual, even if I stop this person from making more money, have I helped myself? No. We should always work as communities to kind of raise the water level in the community. Give each other skill sets, encourage each other, start employing each other, so that we raise the watermark. That's how we grow. But bringing other people down is not a way for what? For growth. It's not.
it is in some corporate areas.
Let me know when you get there. So like, it's not a way to climb. We don't climb ladder. You might be able to climb a ladder as an individual, but you're not going to climb as a community, because you've created this hostile, toxic mentality that the only way for me to succeed is for him to fail.
Zero sum.
Yeah.
That's also not Islamic, because like, Allah is al-Razzaq.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
His rizq is not,
Yeah.
it's infinite.
I agree. And like,
And even some like a lot of successful, rich people, they have that mentality of giving and like spreading, like it's win-win.
yeah.
They don't, like only the ones that like he was like that does some weeks ago. One who's like too jealous or too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, man. Like, that's the jealous mentality. But people who want to, like, and we have to change that. Like, we should want good for ourselves, and we should want good for others. Like, this, it's not a healthy mentality. It's very toxic. What other people are doing, that's their business. The only time I should worry is when it's affecting me directly. And that's only in the case when somebody's oppressing me and somebody's hurting me. Then I have to go and stand up for my rights. But at the end of the day, if my neighbor is earning $1 million or 7 million or 50 billion, it shouldn't matter to me. Because number one, I don't love what? I don't love the dunya. Okay. And if Allah gives it to me, that's fine. Because I still don't care. And when I'm given more money, I use it in a good way. And when I have less money, I still use it in a good way. I just can't give as much. So it's important to have that positive outlook, that positive attitude, to reinvest in ourselves, to reinvest in our communities, to reinvest, you know what I mean? Like, this is what we have to do. It's not about having a negative mentality and pulling other people down. We should always try to raise ourselves and raise others. Luqman, he said to his son, "My son, the world is a vast ocean, drowning many of its victims. Let your boat be taqwa, pad it with iman, and begin by relying on Allah or having tawakkul. You may succeed, but I don't see you as succeeding." What do you guys think?
You may succeed in the dunya, but not necessarily. It will help you eventually.
Okay.
Two scales of success here.
What is he advising him here? Essentially.
Don't try to take the
Don't even take the boat out. He said, listen, even if you have all of the tools to navigate the dunya, there's still a chance that what? You're still going to drown, you're still not going to succeed. Fulayl, rahimahullah, he said, I pondered much over this verse. إِنَّا جَعَلْنَا مَا عَلَى الْأَرْضِ زِينَةً لَهَا لِنَبْلُوَهُمْ أَيُّهُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا وَإِنَّا لَجَاعِلُونَ مَا عَلَيْهَا صَعِيدًا جُرُزًا. That we have adorned the earth with attractive things so that we may test people to find out which of them do best, but we shall reduce all this to barren dust. And again, it's just a reminder that this world it's just temporary. And it looks beautiful, but it's all going to turn to dust. I mean, there's a lot more. I spent a lot of time translating some of this stuff.
It's your world?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like this one. So Ibn Abbas, he said that Allah divided this world into 3 parts. He said the believer, he uses it to prepare. Prepare for what? The akhirah, the next world. The hypocrite uses it to beautify himself, and the disbeliever uses it as enjoyment.
beautify himself.
Yeah.
To make himself look.
To make himself look, because the hypocrite is what?
Ugly, who's looking good.
I guess he's not.
He's superficial.
Two-faced.
Yeah, he's two-faced. He's superficial. This one I thought was pretty harsh. So because it's only dogs that come to feed on the carcass.
As usual. That's Ghazāli.
Yeah. Yeah, sure, no problem. You guys can read some of them. I'll go through them slowly, and then there's a couple that I really thought like stood out.
The house which you're healthy first. Sure.
So out of all of these narrations, Ghazāli was really bothered by this one. And the reason he was bothered by it is because he felt like if this is the case, then it's very difficult to actually have the next world overcome the love of this one.
Is that the thing that broke it?
Well, so he said here, he says, I would hope that this is more sound. He said, like, I would rather rely on this statement. And he said that the world and the next gather in this heart, and whichever one overtakes the other will follow. Meaning that they're both equal. Like one isn't more powerful than the other. I want to ask you guys about this one though. I want you guys to read this one.
Is he going to use it?
I don't know. What is he saying to?
Now we're in the days of poverty.
What is he saying to do?
Not to give, not to, yeah, the thing's saying, just use the bare necessity.
So he's saying use the bare necessities, and what should I do with the rest?
Save or invest.
The days of, so the days of poverty is like, basically,
You're all there, you
No, it's when you go to the Akhirah, like,
Ahsant.
you have nothing to
Ahsant. Ahsant. It's a spiritual statement. Poverty is where? Not in this world, but in the next. Meaning that I should only use what I need, and what should I do with the rest? Give it in charity, do good deeds with it, etc. This one I liked a lot. This one. A wise man asked, who is this world for? He responded, for the one that left it. And he said, who is the next world for? He responded, for the one that seeks it.
The question was against the
Yeah, no, this one, I didn't. Yeah, because it goes against the hadith of the Prophet where he said, what he said, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. But like I said, the idea is like, you just get like some crazy, like extreme, like, you know what I mean? Like you're like really pumped. Yes?
Yes, Allah said in the Quran, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's it, you know. It's like a struggle, you know what I mean?
It's always going to be a struggle. But this is actually the last narration he mentions, and this one's actually nice. So basically, Ali radiallahu anh, he says that there are 6 categories of things. He said things are made to be eaten, to be drunk, to be worn, to be ridden, to be married, or to be smelled. Right? This is the general 6 categories. And he said the best thing that can be eaten is honey, but even honey, it comes from a fly. I heard it comes from a bee. Right? The best of which is water. He said, but both the obedient and the sinner, they benefit and they drink from it. He said the best of what is worn is silk, and it comes from a worm. And he said the best which is the horse on which men are killed, right? Because they ride it into battle. The best of which are women, whose concern causes concern. He said, I swear by Allah, she might beautify something in the best way, only to intend the ugliest thing from it. And then smelled, the best of it is misk, which is from the blood of an animal. Yeah. What do you guys think about this? I thought this was hilarious, personally.
Misogynistic.
Right? Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. It's like you know.
The beautiful things have ugly sources.
No, that's not what it's saying at all, Ben. Wow. Dang.
The Real Housewives.
And again, this is something that men don't even have the ability to do, right? It doesn't matter how much a man beautifies himself. It's not going to change anything for him. It's only in a woman's beauty that she is actually able to twist and manipulate it in a way that a man never can. So, but yeah, that was funny. And that's the end of the chapter. This is the last narration that I actually mentioned. Yeah, go ahead. So basically, she may present something in a way that is so it looks superficially beautiful with an ill intent behind it.
Don't worry, you're cute. You're cute.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
This is the Instagram culture.
Yeah, that's Instagram.
MashaAllah.
We call it catfish.
Catfishing. Allah mustan. Allah mustan. Yeah, but like I said, it's I would say the characteristic or the ability to beautify. Again, this is something that is uniquely feminine. This is uniquely feminine. This is not a masculine trait. Because even if men did it, like it wouldn't be attractive. And again, he's just talking about, like, you know, when a woman is concerned about something, who ends up being concerned? That right? The people around her. Right, he's specifically here talking about the husband, right? So, when something's bothering his wife, that will end up bothering who? It'll end up bothering, but as it should, right? Listen, I already said that women have power over men that men don't have over women. This is well known, and this is part of that, right? This is part of that. But the opposite doesn't always hold true, right? If a husband is bothered about something, it's not necessary that the wife will be bothered about it. Huh? You gotta fix the problem. Yeah, this is our job. Listen, I acknowledge. But alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair. I'll see you guys next week. Allah yabarak fik. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.